Hello, everyone. It is Friday, the 8th of November, 2024. Friday! And I'm going to get through a few things. But to start with, Donald J. Trump, he announced that he selected Susie Wiles, also known as Wile E. Coyote or Susie Wiley, whatever, but it's Susie Wiles, and Chief of Staff. Just going to share a little bit about her, because that is a concern. Just like Vance and his connections to the military pharmaceutical industrial complex and RFK Jr., although to lesser degrees, and he seems to be pushing a good narrative about MAHA right now, make America healthy again. And so he's bringing some good things possibly to the table. But yeah, Trump has selected people that were not experts, that were longtime corporate lobbyists, including Fauci in the past, and he's doing it again. And so very concerning. Trump selects corporate lobbyist Susie Wiles as Chief of Staff. Wiles is co-chair at lobbying firm Mercury Public Affairs and has represented clients in the tobacco, junk food, insurance, and coal industries. So they're just lumping this all together as if it's not significant, right? And or naming the actual companies, but I will. According to a press statement, President-elect Donald Trump has selected his campaign manager, Susie Wiles, to serve as his Chief of Staff. Wiles will be the first woman to serve as Chief of Staff. Susie Wiles just helped me achieve one of the greatest political victories in American history and was an integral part of both my 2016 and 2020 successful campaigns. And Ron DeSantis as well, out of Florida. Also, she also assisted with him getting elected to be head of Florida. She was a lobbyist for tobacco companies Swisher International, for which she worked to influence Congress on FDA regulations, according to disclosures filed with the Senate. Wiles has not filed a termination report for her work with Swisher, but she has not reported lobbying for the company since the first quarter of the year, when the company paid her firm Mercury Public Affairs $30,000 in fees. There's more to it. But anyways, I'm going to get into the big stuff right here. Some of Mercury's other clients highlighted on its website include Gilead Sciences, Pfizer, Tesla, Uber, Kaiser Permanente, AT&T, NBC Universal, and more. And so deep state swamp lobbyist, yet again, going to be influencing American politics and ultimately international politics. Great. And so, and it seems that people on the left and right are propping up this woman and happy about it. And so that's also something that should make people a little more interested in her background. Wiles is a leader of the lobbying giant Mercury, whose clients include SpaceX, AT&T, and the Embassy of Qatar. Again, I've already mentioned a few of these. While she's not registered to lobby for any of these clients. Yeah, she's the daughter of legendary sportscaster Pat Summerall. Oh my goodness, anyways. So yeah, very interesting people that are selected to assist in running the country. Anyway. Is Ron Paul to Trump, beware Mike Pompeo and the other neocon snakes in the grass. Posted from The War Against You. Looks like it was like the last day or so. Yeah, November 6th. 2 days. Okay, anyway. I like Ron Paul, to be clear. So I like to listen to what he has to say.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Liberty Report. With us today, we have Daniel McAdams, our co-host. Daniel, good to see you.
Good morning, Dr. Paul. How are you this morning?
Good. Are you going to be glad when the election is over?
It's partly, but then the hard stuff happens. Yeah. That's when disappointment happens.
A lot of people, the etiquette is, they're so boring, I don't want them, and I don't care. But they all...
Yeah.
Because it's impossible to ignore them because it does affect everybody.
Sure.
There's so many ups and downs. But we're going to talk one angle on the election and what might have come out of it. that has to do with, we believe, a lot to do with every American citizen, because it has to do something with the budget, where the money is being spent, and when our military personnel is being exposed in other parts of the country that participates not in defense, but in manipulation of our foreign policy and what our empire has to do. So this to me is important. And of course, we've wandered along, and you and I have talked about a lot. I wonder what the appointments are going to be like, because, you know, even when he was in office before, you knew personally and knew McGregor real well, and tried to get attention on him. And I think the attention was good. And he is a well-known person now. But it's still, there's been a few times that President Trump has said and acknowledged that maybe one thing that he didn't do real well, and this is unusual for him to say something like that, and I'm not going to say what the words are, but he implied that maybe he didn't vet his appointees like he should have. And we said, yes, we agree with that.
Well, that was, you know, when he was on Rogan, because I think he made a point that was understandable. He said, you know, I got in there and I had this pressure to hire people that were already well known. And, you know, being well known in that field, you've been in Washington forever. And if you've been in Washington forever, you're playing the game. So you're not coming in with the mentality of clearing out the swamp, draining the swamp, because you are the swamp. And so he deserves part of the blame for choosing some people that were bad. And he names them himself, and we'll have some clips on it later. But in some way, it's a system that's flawed, you know, that it doesn't produce people of quality who can be sort of named in these positions.
Well, right now, the assumption and all the money is on Trump. He's going to win.
Looks that way.
And I guess one thing that I am convinced of, let's say he is beaten, by 2% of the vote or 3%, pretty close, but not a crazy amount. But if he pulls this off with the understanding, even coming from the Democrats, I think that would be very insightful. I think people would come away, and I might be in this category. Something is wrong.
Something's fishy.
Denmark, boy, something's going wrong here. So, but we can't complain about that until we find out what happens. But a lot of people are going to be tense today. And in many ways, you know, I make the argument, which is not a overall argument, is I don't get overly involved because no dramatic changes are going to occur. But of course, we get hints and even invited to discuss, cutting the budget and talking about, the Federal Reserve and all. That's all very good. But overall, in my lifetime, ever since I've been watching things, the Fed goes on, printing money goes on, the debt goes on, our empire grows, the war market continues. So
yeah, and I'm not finished with Susie Wiles, because Alex Jones also had his own commentary on her. I'm going to get to that after this video, and also say that Alex Jones, it would be hilarious. He's joking, but he just posted on X about accepting the offer to be Donald Trump's press secretary. That would be hilarious. I'm not gonna lie, I would watch every single friggin' press secretary meeting there was if Alex Jones was the one that was running it. Anyway,
it is important, and there is a difference, but there's also similarities. But I put that down that the deep state is very powerful, and they influence both sides. No matter who wins,
oh my God,
it's going to be hard. If and when Trump wins, for his appointment, say to the Federal Reserve, he's complained about, boy, and they don't like anybody messing around with the Federal Reserve. So that there's a lot of hurdles there. But anyway, last night. I had an indirect invitation to maybe join in on the gala that the gala had there, and on the winding down, convention for Trump. And I have to admit, I was so glad I wasn't there because I had trouble if I was sitting in the audience. Who's going to be the top-notch speaker to wind down this wonderfully run campaign. Who's this is going to be? Oh, Jonathan Turley. Oh, we got somebody else. That would have made me very uneasy, and I don't want to tell anybody what I might have done.
Yeah, well, it was unfortunate, and that's the reason why we what do we title today's show? Trump, beware of Mike Pompeo and the other neocon snakes in the grass, because they're there and they're dangerous. And Mike Pompeo was very dangerous, and sadly, as you point out, he closed the event in Pittsburgh. He got a big ovation. Trump gave him a big, very big welcome. And now we're not talking about this to criticize or to attack Trump. Our point is just be careful, because I think he has very good instincts when it comes to these. You know, remember on a recent interview, I forget which one it was, maybe it was Rogan, but it was after Rogan, I guess, when he was talking about Liz Cheney, and he said, yeah, she wants to send everyone to war. Why don't you have her up there with a bunch of guns facing her? You know, and of course the press misrepresented it. He wanted her shot. He was saying, you're the one pushing wars. Why don't you go out and face all these guns? Because it's not a walk in the park. So I think he has good anti-war instincts in that respect. However, he still tends to kind of run with the bad crowd. And so here we have a little clip from last night. Here is a minute long of Mike Pompeo, former CIA director for Trump 1, former Secretary of State for Trump 1. And let's hear what he has to say.
And I often get asked, Mike, what was it like? Right, the Washington Post described me as the most loyal cabinet member to Donald J. Trump. I had to remind the president that they did not mean that as a compliment. They asked me, what was it like to serve for President Trump? And I told them, and I've told everyone hundreds of times in these 3.5 years, it was the greatest privilege that Mike Pompeo could ever have. I was proud to be a part of President Trump's team. I talked to him every day for 4 years, first as CIA director and then as Secretary of State. And what I was so proud of is that we understood the greatness of this nation, and we never once apologized.
Except you're a warmonger, you're a liar, you're a deep state asset. Oh my God, you're a lobbyist for the military pharmaceutical industrial complex, and you are covering up the lies and deceit and conspiracies, not theories, but actual conspiracies regarding so much. I have so many videos on this, Don 189 on Rumble, because that's the only uncensored platform that I've been able to keep, essentially. And JFK assassination, World War I, World War II, USS Liberty, Holodomor, 9/11, January 6th, what's going on right now in the Middle East. There's just so much. Russia, Ukraine, there's so many lies regarding that as well, and that he's pushed and continues to push.
For the United States of America, not once.
He's a liar. He's not sharing the reality of the shape of the world even. If you want to get rid of some deep state funding that they're getting, that they're stealing from all, it would be to terminate NASA in the program and Space Force.
Now, President Trump's going to secure our southern border. We will bring peace back to the world. We will take down the ring.
No, you got to finish it.
Of fire. We will support our friends in Israel, but he's going to need help to do that.
Yeah, so 3 observations, Dr. Paul. First of all, referring to himself in the third person is odd. You know, that's odd. That's just something weird. The second one is he's obviously sucking up. You know, it was such an honor.
Yeah, there are, November with Pompeo also possibly complicit or involved in the attempt on Julian Assange, his life, attempt to censor Edward Snowden, so many others.
To serve you, such an honor to serve you. And then the third one, though, which is it may have passed people's ears undetected, but he said, we're going to take down the ring of fire. That means Iran. That means he's promising war with Iran. And we're going to support Israel, which is meaning that to support Israel's war with Iran. So even in this closing statement, he is saying we're going to bring more war. And you may not notice that if you don't listen closely, but that's what Trump is getting if he hires a Mike Pompeo.
You know, and you can tell he was put in a position of gaining a great endorsement by that crowd and by the television and all these, and this victory that probably they're going to have, they're going to say that's all an endorsement of that foreign policy. And yet we've heard the other side of it by others in the administration. And, I keep thinking about it. The one thing we can give him credit for is if you take the conventional way of measuring intelligence, he does quite well.
He's a smart guy.
First in West Point and all that, but that doesn't automatically give you judgment. I think there's a difference between IQs and how they test it. I don't think
when I was at RMC, I was one of 2 cadets selected to go to West Point on exchange, and it is a very prestigious institution, or at least it used to be. But that doesn't mean that this person has carte blanche to do and say whatever you want.
You can test, judgment and put everything together.
Come on.
And so I think in part, the one thing that the IQ is very helpful in no matter what you do. So you don't have to, that doesn't define where you're coming from, but it defines a vehicle that makes you more effective. He's very effective. And I first met him when we were in Congress, and and he moved up. His career reminds me a little about George H.W. Bush. He was in.
A simple push-to-drink bottle can help you stay younger and live longer by transforming ordinary water. It also gives you more energy, better
career reminds me a little about George H.W. Bush. He was in. I think he was in the House, and then although he ran, I think he ran for Senate and lost. But automatically he had jobs. He was at the UN and CIA. So this guy, he has moved up the ladder, and I predict that but our suggestion of being cautious will go unobserved. I hate to say it and shouldn't do these predictions, but just as a matter of fact, I think he's on his way, to becoming Secretary of State or
defense.
So
the thing is that Bolton. It's easy to make fun of Bolton. We talked about before the show. I think Bolton's days are behind him. Now he's going to sit down and write some book or whatever. That's what he does. But Pompeo he still hungers for that game. He wants to be in the game. I don't think Bolton really does. He's got a comfy chair in some think tank somewhere probably. So that makes Pompeo a real danger. And like you say, because he is a very intelligent person. But someone else who we both consider a very intelligent person is Tucker Carlson. And Tucker is definitely supportive of Donald Trump. There's no question about it this time around. But Tucker had some interesting reflections on Mike Pompeo. And it was during an interview, I think on Rogan, where Tucker said he basically got a call and he was warned by Pompeo's people, maybe Pompeo himself, to stay away from the JFK stuff. Let's listen to this. This is interesting because he has some interesting reflections on Mike Pompeo as a person. Let's listen to this clip.
Committed a crime.
Full screen it, please.
Threatening me. It was in my car. With my dog sitting next to me. I'll never forget this. And I said, are you really saying that to reveal that the U.S. government had a role in the murder of a democratically elected president, to say that out loud, that's the crime? What about the actual crime, which is murdering a president? You're covering up for that, Mike Pompeo. What did he say to that? He had no response at all. And so Mike Pompeo is the one who pressed Trump to keep those documents secret. And so it's what's crazy to me is not just that Pompeo did that. I think Pompeo is a really sinister person and a criminal. I think that because the facts suggest that. He was caught. Yahoo News, Mike Isikoff wrote a long piece on this several years ago. His employees went to Mike Isikoff and said, hey, Mike Pompeo was plotting to murder Julian Assange, who's never even been charged with a crime in the United States, as CIA director. That's illegal. You're not allowed. Federal employees are not allowed to just kill people they don't like. Okay, just set the baseline here. So that's who Mike Pompeo is. But he somehow intimidated Trump into not releasing this. Well, okay, that's all bad, right? I think it's criminal behavior.
Yep.
Interesting.
Wow.
Thinks it's criminal behavior, keeping the JFK record secret.
Yep. Not Hillary.
And interesting with the Mike Isikoff piece that he talks about.
He had a chance. He even admitted on the Joe Rogan show that he had plenty of evidence that she was a criminal, a dirty, evil human being, the worst. He said so many things about her, but he had the data. He had the evidence to put her behind bars and then a lot of suffering in the world. I know that sounds dramatic, but it's true. And he didn't. And he's trying to justify that, saying that it wouldn't be good for the country. In what reality? No, it wouldn't be good for your pharma military industrial complex friends, bro. And I'm still saying that I would still vote for Trump over Kamala. Obviously, I've said this forever. But it's I don't know. But there's just still a lot of concerns.
Blowers from the CIA came to Isikoff and said he's plotting to kill Assange. So it came from within the agency.
Yeah,
that's pretty bad. I mean, Tucker is great at saying that. You can't just kill people you don't like.
That was so strong. I got to thinking, boy, he better be careful. He's going to lose his income and the people are going to leave him. But I bet his numbers went up when almost every program, his numbers go up because, you know what it is? It's not that he knows everything, but he's telling the truth to the best of his ability. And that's what people are looking for. But most of the people, I think it's 70 or 80%, don't believe the government story about how JFK was killed.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a brand new theory of what happened.
Yeah, and we should know. But the other thing that was concerning is how, and we don't know exactly how this worked, but he basically said that Mike Pompeo intimidated Trump into not doing that. And I've heard stories that it was Pompeo who was pushing the murder of Soleimani, which really has ignited the Middle East. It's caused a lot of problems in the Middle East, and that was Pompeo's thing, from what I've heard. So it's really bad. But let's listen to another thing. This is sort of we're putting Pompeo on trial, but let's listen to another one because this is Assange himself describing what happened, describing the attempts to kill him and his family, by the way. Let's do that second to the third. If we can full screen and then listen. After getting out of jail, in his own words, this is very chilling.
It is now a matter of public record. Under Pompeo's explicit direction, the CIA drew up plans to kidnap and to assassinate me within the Ecuadorian embassy in London and authorized going after my European colleagues, subjecting us to theft, hacking attacks, and the planting of false information. My wife and my infant son were also targeted. A CIA asset was permanently assigned to track my wife, and instructions were given to obtain DNA from my 6-month-old son's nappy. This is the testimony of more than 30 current and former US intelligence officials speaking to the US press, which has been additionally corroborated by records seized in a prosecution brought against some of the CIA agents involved. The CIA's targeting of myself, my family, and my associates through aggressive extrajudicial and extraterritorial means provides a rare insight into how powerful intelligence organizations engage in transnational repression.
Very powerful. His wife and his infant son targeted.
Horrible.
And remember when we had Assange speak at our conference and he talked about how Pompeo called him a hostile foreign intelligence person, all this. Yeah. Really on his radar. So.
What they'd like to do is turn in, they do it all the time, especially in these last few years of seeking the truth. The people who are revealing this, they work real hard to make them the bad guys.
Yeah,
and of course, that's the way our government did it. So we had to give the government that finally, acquiesced to letting Assange, go back to Australia, I guess it is.
Yeah. Well, and we're talking about Pompeo because he seems to have had a pretty large role, particularly in the last part of this campaign. But he's not the only danger. That's why we called it other neocon snakes in the grass, because we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, I guess. Nikki Haley's out there. Tom Cotton is out there. Lindsey Graham, little Marco Rubio is out there. He was introducing, I think, Trump down in Florida. And these are all bad guys, Yeah. And gals.
And, let's be thankful that we theoretically have a right to do this, and that we're not going to be, assassinated for it. But more and more people are thinking maybe we shouldn't be complacent. I mean, maybe that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Don't get too complacent about what's going on, because the assassinations of the 60s, I wrote a little pamphlet on that. The 60s, how the assassinations changed our whole country.
Yeah.
I think that was a pivoting point,
Yeah.
because the CIA and other government agencies was involved with JFK, RFK, and Martin Luther King, and others.
Yeah.
And that's because, and most people agree that because they became outspoken on anti-war. Because, in looking at Kennedy and all his speeches, when he was first in office, he was sort of trying to play a balanced game. But the longer he was there, and I think he had announced that, he's, in the next term, he would make sure that they get out of Vietnam.
Yeah. And he also wanted to separate the CIA, separate the intelligence gathering and analysis from the covert action, the covert ops, and that might have been his fatal mistake, and his nephew RFK Jr. believes that. I mean, he said it on our show. He said it, repeatedly, that he thinks the CIA is responsible for his father's death and his uncle's death. So
Obviously.
It would be an interesting thing, because RFK is apparently, at least according to Trump's people, going to have a prominent role if there is a Trump 2.0 administration. So it would be strange to have someone like Pompeo, who's trying to hide the truth, and RFK, who wants the truth to come out about who killed his uncle and his father.
And the people, the large number of people, they're getting hit back and forth and back and forth. It's all politics, the noise they hear.
Yeah.
But there's still a vehicle
Yeah.
that we can get information out.
Well, let's not keep talking bad about Mike Pompeo. Let's let Mike Pompeo himself say a couple of words.
He's high IQ. He's not going to make a mistake on what he says.
Yeah. Let's let him talk in his own defense here. Let's full screen this, and let's hear Mr. Pompeo in his own words.
When I was a cadet, what's the cadet motto at West Point? You will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It was like we had entire training courses. It reminds you of the glory of the American experiment.
Anyway,
when I was a cadet,
The applause is the worst part of this. I mean,
these are cadets. I mean, these are West Point cadets laughing about it. It's very sad. Very sad.
They've been brainwashed.
Yeah. It's terrible. But so hopefully we'll see what happens. But I wanted to do one other one, because this is kind of, I guess, as we move toward a close in this show, this is more of a hopeful thing, because this is Trump when he's on with Joe Rogan and admitting that someone like Bolton was a mistake, and so let's listen in his own words, that final, if we can put our earpieces in. I think, this is a really good section. You might want to put that in and listen to Trump. This is a good section, I think.
Bolton, or I picked Bolton. He called up. He said, "Don't pick him. Why? He's a bad guy." Now, he wasn't in politics at all. He's in various businesses. He said, "He's a bad guy. He's just, it always works out bad with that guy." And I said, "Oh man, I wish you told me this 2 weeks ago. I already hired him. He's here." And he was right, but he was good in a certain way. He's a nut job. And every time I had to deal with a country, when they saw this whack job standing behind me, they said, "Oh man, Trump's going to go to war with us." He was with Bush when they went stupidly into the Middle East. They should have never done it. I used to say it as a civilian. Bolton, or I picked Bolton. He called up. He said, "Don't pick him. Why? He's a bad guy." Now, he was.
Who were they talking about?
They're talking about Bolton, yeah.
Oh, Bolton. Yeah, okay.
But, Trump's made an important point. He said Bolton was there when Bush went stupidly into the Middle East. That's a great sentence. But here we have, just last night, Mike Pompeo promising to go back into the Middle East. We're going to take down the Ring of Fire. That means we're going to go to war with Iran. So he's on the verge of making the same mistake by promoting him.
One thing that goes on, you're not allowed to mention because you're unpatriotic, is that they had a real serious effort of trying to work with the Iranians and have an agreement that they don't build a nuclear weapon. So what did they say this week when I hear this? Yeah. Well, we have the equipment to start it. Yeah. They have it. But I think they know that it's foolhardy and they don't want to, but they just have to, at least pretend they're going to be able to defend themselves. But this is terrible. That's why it's so terrible when we've heard of this thing called non-intervention and stay away from empire, stay away from the military-industrial complex. How beneficial it is! How many problems are solved? Her freedoms are protected. The budget is protected, and less war. And yet, we're not. Who knows where we'll go from here?
And I think Trump does want less war, and even if it's not because of any sort of moral whatever, he just knows that's really bad politics. He doesn't want it. So we'll see what happens. But I noticed with interest that Donald Trump Jr. retweeted your column of yesterday. He's done that a couple of times, and I think Donald Trump Jr. is a very smart person. I think he's very astute. I think he's really has good political instincts. So maybe Trump will call his son up, and his son will say, "Dad, don't put this guy, don't put the neocons. They're gonna ruin you. They'll ruin you. They'll ruin his presidency."
Maybe we ought to call his son and ask him to come on our program.
I would love to have Donald Trump Jr. on the show. That would be really interesting. Yeah. Imagine all the things because they were basically kids the first time. They were young, early 20s. I don't know exactly how old he is, but it'd be interesting to do. So anyway, I'll close out by thanking our viewers. Election day, we'll see what happens.
Anyway, very interesting. Very interesting commentary on Pompeo. Now, Roger Stone and Alex Jones, two people, that are definitely conspiratorial. I don't agree with everything they share or say or believe, but they do bring a lot of facts to their programming as well, right? So you can't throw out the baby with bathwater. So this is the Tom Renz show. I haven't watched this video yet, but Roger Stone on Alex Jones discussing Susie Wiles and Trump 2024. And this was from 5 months ago. Very interesting. And
George H.W. Bush, in the globalist candidate for President George H.W. Bush.
So very interesting that this is 5 months ago. So obviously she was just announced to be the chief of staff just in the last 24 hours. And they were already on top of this.
In 2016, she managed Donald Trump's Florida campaign against Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio, the globalist candidates. She's proven herself time and time
again. And she helped shoot down DeSantis. So let's just stop here. And we'll spend. Hold on. Just stop for a minute. Because I didn't know you were going there next. I want to go to Civil War and the Democrats failing and what they're going to plan next. I didn't know you. I'm glad you went here. I was going to kind of tag it on the end because I think it was that important. But we had a great guest on who means well and is a really smart guy, Tom Renz, lawyer. And he was pointing out, that Susie Wiles has worked on a whole bunch of campaigns and all the rest of it. And it became some of a controversy because he can't get a meeting with Trump to talk about the poison shots. Well, that's because Trump believes in him, folks. That's the big bad thing about Trump. We've already said that, but he's way better than Biden on the border and on the coal power plants and on not starting World War III. So I'm openly admitting, I have an issue with that. So to me, it really doesn't matter. We've already gone over all that ground. And I told, Renz through my producer, I said, look, no, it's Trump. It's not Susie Wiles running things. It's Trump. That's why he's because he believes anything he does is perfect, which is great against the globalists because they can't push him around, but also we can't. So so I want to give you the floor to start over on this lady because I knew who she was, but hadn't really followed it. I did the deep dive on it. I know she destroyed DeSantis. I know she worked for Reagan. I know you know her well, and so you wanted to set the record straight about that. We're not mad at Tom. It's just that he's not inside the Mar-a-Lago bunker. So and here's a political article that came out a day after Tom was on. last week talking about this, how Susie Wiles became the most admired and feared political operative nobody's ever heard of. So you weren't mad at Tom, but you called me and you're like, yeah, I know this lady. She's one of the best people he's ever had. They put Manafort, who was great, in prison. They try to put you in prison. They try to put me in prison. They're coming after anybody on the sports team. They're coming after her. That's why she keeps a low profile. But no, the vaccine policy does not come from her. It comes from Trump. So the buck stops with him. So you wanted to talk about her and knowing her since the Reagan administration, what a great lady she is. So start over with her amazing history, and then let's talk about it. Go ahead.
This is really simple. First of all, Tom Renz is a good man. He's a friend of mine. He's done excellent work on COVID-19 vaccination shot. All I'm saying is that I know Susie Wiles for 30 years. She worked, as I said, against Ronald Reagan, against the globalist candidate George H.W. Bush. She worked in 1988, again with me, for Jack Kemp, against the globalist candidate George H.W. Bush. In 2016, she managed Florida against both Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio, both globalists. Now, here's where I think there's some confusion. Yes, she worked for a public affairs firm called Mercury. She's not an owner. She's not a principal. She's not a partner. She's never represented any pharmaceutical company. She's never represented any foreign nation. And she hasn't worked for anyone since going back to work for Donald Trump. And most importantly, she has no connection whatsoever to the world.
Okay, so I've got another one for you from someone that actually knows what he's talking about.
Why are you not currently living your dream life?
So we're up here arguing DeSantis and Donald Trump, and really it's people like Susie Wiles, who keeps the whole administrative state cabal. In the Time magazine article,
middle MAGA.
What Trump's take is the populist direction. Now, of course, people like J.D. Vance and Tulsi Gabbard and Ben Carson would tell him not to run on the vaccine, to in fact run on the Brooke Jackson case about how Pfizer lied to him and lied to the administration and lied to the American people and caused a lot of deaths. Right now, unfortunately, Trump is going in the other direction.
And it's not like I put out a tweet yesterday. Like, someone's got to grab him by the shoulders and shake him, or metaphorically speaking, slap some shit into him. It's so stupid. He thinks he's going to get in the good graces of the Howard Sterns, who, if they think the jab was good, is still going to give credit to Joe Biden, even though he had nothing to do with that awful Operation Warp Speed. It's so stupid and it's so terrible. I don't know. It's like someone sabotaging him.
Yeah, well, his campaign manager really believes in it. I mean, his campaign manager was trying to shame and guilt people for not taking the vaccine, and was blaming any COVID increase on people not being vaccinated. That's who she is. I mean, it's horrendous. I mean, she's.
So now we have to talk about Trump's campaign manager, and there was a big piece in Politico. That's what Robert Barnes is going to talk about here.
Bragging in Politico about how she's running his campaign.
Yeah, let's go to the Political article. This is a big deal. Donald Trump is making a big mistake here. And I don't know if it's his choice or what. You know, people can blackmail, they can do a lot of things, have something over you. But he's got people in his campaign that are anti-populists. It would be like having what we have here with Susie Wiles running his campaign would be like basically Bill Barr running his campaign, not much different. This is the Political article that Robert Barnes referenced. The most feared and least known political operative in America. This is the article where everybody knows she's marking her territory. Not only that, she's like, I got both sides on lock. She used to work with DeSantis. Now she's working with Trump. And look at that, Politico saying, you guys can go run to Trump. This is what they're saying indirectly. You guys can go run to Trump and hug him as a populist leader. But behind the scenes, we've got big pharma. We've got basically administrative state type all people running the show between both of them. So we're up here arguing DeSantis and Donald Trump, and really it's people like Susie Wiles, who keeps the whole administrative state cabal. She would be in the Time magazine article. What is he surrounding himself with? And she's got ties with big pharma, deep state. Let's hear Barnes continue on.
That anybody in Trump's world could say, hey, Trump, turns out you didn't beat DeSantis. She did. Politico told me. Just let let him know now and then. Yeah, here and there. But he's chosen the swamp.
I don't know where the Dilly Mean team stands on this, but I know I'm pretty sure behind the scenes they're not happy with this.
To run his campaign, she was the one that said he should stand by Mike Johnson when he's betraying the Republic.
Here we go. Remember, we talked to Trump. We talked about Trump, and he said, "Well, before he was like, we got to end the war, and then now he's like, well, we got to do a loan for the sunflower country. A loan? They weren't even working on a bill that's a loan. What are you talking about? Donald Trump's probably talking about the future bill. He's talking about when I'm president.
Republican base. She's the one who convinced him that he should, instead of continuing to oppose Ukrainian aid, recharacterize it as a loan and support it. I mean, these are horrendous decisions, and it reminds me so much of this exact time frame in 2020, March, April, May 2020. And we and a few of us were the only ones out there saying, don't get involved in the lockdown, don't listen to Fauci, don't listen to Birx, don't shut down the economy. And I had a bunch of Trump supporters tell me, Barnes, you don't understand. This is 4D chess.
Barnes is absolutely right here. That's exactly what happened.
This is going to be super genius. Everybody's going to celebrate him for it. He's going to get a bunch of votes for saving lives. I was like, no, he'll get all the criticism for anything that goes wrong, and he'll get none of the credit. And all they did.
He shouldn't get any credit. Credit for what?
Was sink the economy and open up mass man voting. And now he's considering repeating the exact same mistakes all over again.
Robert, if you saw me make a face like, ugh, it's because I just pulled up the Politico article to see what her name was. It is Wiles. I mean, Wiles. Did they put that picture up there thinking that I'm trying to insult her?
See, Viva's Canadian, and he's great, don't get me wrong, but he doesn't see the imagery here that we just talked about with Trump on one side, with her with the sunglasses. They made her the boss. Well, since when does Trump or DeSantis like that? It's probably because the money's behind her. You go start talking about her, then you got problems.
Or did they think that makes her look like dark Brandon woman version?
The goal of this is a message to everybody in Trump world that she runs the campaign. And
it's bigger than that, respectfully, Barnes. It's DeSantis and Trump on there. It's saying that she runs everything. Between Trump and DeSantis, you've got the whole GOP covered, the whole new age GOP. There's nobody else. It's Trump or DeSantis. It's Team Trump and the offsprings, or it's Team DeSantis and his offsprings, which, the people he's associated.
And Senator Mike Johnson also connected to WEF.
Associated with Youngkin and Brian Kemp and those types. And then you have Trump, and then you have the Kerry Lakes and the Matt Gaetz and those. They're saying that she rules the roost. That's what that's about. On all of it, the whole thing. You think MAGA rules something? No. That's why I've always said it's important for MAGA to control Trump. Do you get it now? Because they have other people. If you don't control him, somebody else will.
She gatekeeps for Trump. Tom Renz has been talking about this with Alex Jones. Other people have known this for a while. It's just when you see a piece like this.
I actually did a video. I couldn't find it. I was looking for it. I wish you could search the verbiage in all your videos. I did a video. It wasn't a big segment, but
Hey folks, I'm John Rich. Just as wokeness and censorship have subverted the music industry, they've also
searched the verbiage in all your videos. I did a video. It wasn't a big segment, but I talked about her previously.
This is a way of broadcasting to the world. I run the show now. And because Trump generally doesn't like it when people make these kind of claims. So for her to make this kind of claim means that's the degree of control she has. That the degree of to such, and this has been ongoing. If you are at Viva Barnes Law.locals.com, I've been talking about it now for over a month, really for months, that there's been behind the scenes a struggle concerning which direction Trump would take, and Wiles has been pushing him to go the establishment route, try to make amends with different aspects of the deep state apparatus, with corporate America, with big donors. and highlighting that he should run on was that he did the vaccine. So they're telling him this is a bad idea, that the vaccine did not turn out good.
You guys, I don't want to say that. That's just so lame to say. This has been a concern of mine for quite some time. I remember the first live I did where I'm like, we're well beyond. This was in 2022, I believe, and I'm like, we're well beyond 2020, and he still has not gone after Fauci. Why? He still has not gone after him. He still hasn't gone after Deborah Birx. Why? Why wouldn't you go after the ones that set you up? Because he wanted to leave the door open to go back this establishment route. He brought the Johnson & Johnson family down at that rally. They got booed. Right now, Trump needs to get booed. That's what needs to happen right now. Otherwise, you're putting all your eggs in a basket of a guy who's bought out, or he's not even bought out. He's like, oh, they rock with me and I still rock with them. Why can't I cozy up to the establishment if everybody's still going to rock with me?
That you shouldn't take the blame for what happened with the vaccine, given that Pfizer lied and betrayed and violated their contracts. And she's won out for the time being. And it's showing up in the VP choice as well. She's the one pushing Tim Scott, for example. She's the one pushing out any kind of populist alternative. So and we'll see when the VP choice actually made how much control she completely has.
You see that? Well, Trump's going to pick an establishment GP. That's what that article is about. To weed out any sense of populism in him. Make sure he's Israel first. Weed out all populism. The MAGA people still rock with Trump. They still think it's like 2016 Trump. They still think it's Trump of the populist base. It's not. It's not. That's not the Trump we're seeing right now.
Well, I hope that's the case. Yeah. I wanted to get into a few other things, but I do have to get on with my day. Oh, no. I wanted to share my Instagram. My goodness. Yeah, very interesting things down there. And I'm shadow banned and ghost a lot, so it's hard to even find my content unless you spell out my name completely.
Are there any states that criminalize miscarriage?
No.
This is to people that are on the left that have a lot of misinformation regarding women's reproductive rights in the U.S.
Care for a miscarriage?
No.
Are there any states that criminalize removing an ectopic pregnancy?
No.
Are there any states that prohibit life-saving care for the mother?
No.
Are there any states where women have to be actively dying for a doctor to be able to act for her care?
No.
In this, that I'm concerned people away from getting access to health care.
Exactly.
Vice President Harris in a speech recently said that women were being arrested and facing prosecution for experiencing miscarriages. Ms. Ackler, do you know of a single instance where has been arrested for having a miscarriage or getting health care for that?
No, treatment for miscarriage is allowed under the law. And there have been instances where I think that one example of that that's been pointed to is misleading because the woman, I think she was in Ohio, the charges against her were not abortion related. And so it's misleading to use that as an example.
It's not only misleading, but it scares women away from getting access to health care. And it leads women to not go get health care treatment when they desperately need it. Are there any states?
And so I needed to share this because Kamala Harris, as the vice president and wanting to be the president-elect, was spewing garbage like this, even with the last week of her bid, of her campaign. Just disgusting. And she wonders why she didn't get the popular vote or win. She wonders why. Blames it on racism and sexism, as if this is important because I like the fact that it's on news updates for real, because this guy's hilarious and he gets a lot of things right too. Regarding Canada and a link connection to the pandemic, because I shared this information from the beginning. So this is just, again, like a great day of like reinforcing like stuff that I shared that I was right on. Chinese scientists in Winnipeg. I shared they had top secret clearance. I don't even know why that was a thing. And a little bit more involved than people were even believing.
Wouldn't it be crazy if I told you that Canada may have had a role in creating COVID-19? Wouldn't it be crazy if I told you that the Trudeau government was complicit in sending deadly viruses to China? And wouldn't it be crazy if one of the very destinations for these Canadian deadly viruses was the Wuhan biolab? And wouldn't it be crazy if a parliamentary report further revealed that the National Microbiology Laboratory in Winnipeg was working hand in hand with scientists from Wuhan, with even some foreign scientists working in Winnipeg? And wouldn't it be crazy if the Trudeau government allowed this to continue even after being warned by security agents? And wouldn't it be crazy if SARS-CoV-2 samples found in the Wuhan lab had genetic markers of viruses sent from Winnipeg? And wouldn't it be crazy if the Trudeau government delayed this report from coming out so that the scientists could return home to China? Wouldn't it be crazy if I told you that Canada may have had a role in 19?
Yep. And I'm an international security advisor. For those that know, I've done a lot of other contracts. I don't know if you can see this, but for multiple other things, like the Standing Rapid Deployment Team, which is for people like GAC and DART and other organizations like the military, for people that respond to natural and man-made disasters locally and internationally. And so you should be hiring people like me instead of the people that they were hiring, multi-million-dollar contracts like McKinsey and others that were friends and family, but people that were pushing bullshit, zero facts, zero evidence, and then getting a lot of money for it. And so I would like to be heard again, please. Let's get those calls going. I like this one. We can disagree and still be friends. Yeah, that's a good motto to have. So this is more information regarding the people that were involved in signing the legal documentation to have Peanut the squirrel murdered. And so I give the names and the faces again. Peaceful, but I'm hoping that these people get shamed to step down. Bigger priorities in the world than going after a squirrel that had a social media presence for 7 years and part of a wildlife rescue organization, and promoted a lot of joy in the world, happiness, and a lot of money going towards this good cause, these good causes, and people that drove from 3.5 hours away, raided this rescue place, this animal rescue organization, for several hours, destroyed everything in their house, didn't allow them to even feed their rescue animals during this period, treated them like absolute criminals, and not focusing on actual crime that's also within your friggin' government. There's so much blue on blue right now. It's disgusting. So yeah, hopefully these people get shit and get fired.
Think of her as Wile E. Coyote.
No, hold on. I think it was Susan Wiles, not Wiley, right?
Maybe it's Wiles. Maybe it's Wiles. It was one of the Wile E. It's at whichever one it is.
I saw that. But that's it for today's news. So on that note, I will leave it at that, and I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.